right, so these are awesome stage and studio pieces that you can get just on Amazon. They're a little bit pricey if you're going to get a whole set to do a whole studio. If you look over here, I've got my first one up. This is going to be obviously the first piece of the grid closest to the green screen. This is going to be our back portion, so this will be more for key lights and things that we're going to be lighting our talent with. And then we're going to be doing some cross members, and I'll show you those pieces when we get to that point. This is just some chain I got from Lowe's. I like the yellow, that way it's very visible that people know, hey, it's nice and secure up there. These went around the trusses. So I actually went up into the attic, took my drill bit that has a nice circular saw piece on it, and then cut out some nice circles for that chain to come down through. It looks really professional, very nice. And then we've got these carabiners. And all of these are rated to do in excess of 2,000 pounds. And so, you know, there's no way that we're going to be getting 2,000 pounds on this truss ever. But it's nice to know that we're rated for far more than we'd ever need. The next pieces are these guys. This is steel pipe. A lot of people want to cheap out on this. These are obviously very, very expensive if you're going to do a full grid with nice steel pipe. But if you cheap out and you get either like PVC pipe or like an aluminum, when people really clamp lights on there with Mathelinis and other types of clamps, like super clamps, it will actually bend and warp and distort your grid, and then eventually it's just going to be garbage. So definitely worth getting the expensive stuff. Do it right the first time, you won't ever have to do it again. So these carabiners are awesome. They lock into place. We're ready to go around this pipe. All right, so we've got that side on. Now we're gonna secure this side. So these just kind of come on like this. We've got it attached to the carabiner, so I can just split this open, put it right around the pipe. You can take our nut and bolt here, put it through. Feed it through this side. We're gonna hand tighten it. There's another bolt up on the top that we're gonna need to do. So we'll hand tighten that one too. Okay. And then what we need to do is take a drill with a hex bit on it, and then we're gonna take this guy. What is this? A 13mm socket. And we're just going to tighten these guys up. We want to go slow because it's going to crank your socket hand if you go too quickly, and that's going to hurt. I know because I did it on the one over there. So we'll go nice and slow. Get it nice and cinched up. Now we could have just done this where the chain went around the pipes instead of using these fancy stage studio truss pieces. You know, saved ourselves a few $100, but I think it looks neater, nicer, it looks more professional. And when you have clients coming in to film with you, it's always good. It's a professional. If you're just doing a home studio, we're going to be doing YouTube videos and things like that. This is probably overkill, but if you wanted to do something like this, then that wouldn't matter quite as much. So those are now load bearing. So we can drop these guys, and it's going to support it there for me. And then we're going to release those Mathelinis, but there we go. It's supporting that weight nicely. We'll go up and take that Mathelini off there. There we go. All right, once you get your chain up there, so your hole's cut, you put the chain around the truss, this part should go pretty quick for you. All right, so we're going to be using a couple of C-stands here with Mathelinis on top of our boom arm here to actually hoist this up in the air to get it where it needs to be. Now, if you have really tall ceilings, these ceilings are about 14 feet. If your ceilings are really, really tall, you're going to need to use combo stands that are tall enough to get this all the way up to where it needs to go. But for these ceilings with the boom arm, it is plenty high enough to get up to the grid system. So when I started with the very first one, this is the same method that I used. So just using these C-stands to hold it up there so that I can actually mount it. Because that is the trickiest part, is getting these very heavy pieces of metal up to the ceiling where we need to mount them. So we're going up incrementally on either side, making sure those knuckles are super, super tight. I actually had one almost drop because I didn't have it quite tight enough. So we're really going to ratchet those down so that this guy doesn't fall. A grid system is great. If you're watching this video, you probably already know why they're so great. But a grid system is great because it gets all of your lights off of the ground, so you don't have a bunch of stands that you're fussing with while you're producing your video. Especially with a green screen like this, it's nice to have all those lights off the ground. That way, if you do any visual effects work or anything where anybody's moving, the stand's not getting in the shot as well. So we're actually placing these right on top of the other cross member there, because I want these ones to help support the weight, right? All right, we've got those in place. Let me show you a close-up of these pieces that I'm using. These are awesome. They use these in stage, they use these in film. So basically, we can take these two pieces, have holes for the bolts, so we can put them like that. And then one of our pipes goes this way, one of the pipes goes that way, creating a nice 90-degree form for us. And for these ones, I was using a socket to put the the ceiling mount pieces on. So I was using this guy and this hex head. But for these, they're actually too tight on there and I can't get that socket around it, so we're just using one of these guys. These are what is included when you buy these. They just put them in a little bag according to how many you need. And if you're watching this video thinking to yourself that this looks complicated and how am I going to do this, leave your questions down in the comments. I'd be happy to answer your questions about this. I can actually come and consult on your studio build. I do fly out and consult, as well as film commercials and all kinds of other things. So I fly all over the country, and I love that. Love being able to make awesome content and also being able to help other people make awesome content by creating a custom studio space that's going to suit their needs. This particular studio that I'm building for myself is going to be for some small visual effects work. It's also going to be for a lot of client work where you need talent in front of a green screen or a white screen. And then we have a podcast station right over on that side where we actually record podcasts as well as record them. All right, so we got all four of these bolts secured now. So now if we try to shift this thing around, it's not going anywhere. These are nice and tight, fastened onto each other. So we can put one more at the end there, and then one more across the middle here, and then another one here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 more or so to place. Now, if you're wondering what all of these pieces are that I'm using, I'll put them in the description below. I do know that it can be hard to find a lot of these pieces sometimes if you're not exactly sure what it is that you're searching for on Amazon or on Google. And so I'll just go ahead and actually put these in the description below. So those will be down in the description below so you can find it. They'll be there for your convenience. And if you're wondering how to attach the lights onto the grid system, I really like these. These are from GTX Grip. These are heavy duty pipe clamps, and this is what are used in studios. It has this great little guide down here that helps you to quickly loosen and tighten this end here that actually clamps to the pipe. It also comes with a heavy duty safety cable, which is awesome. We've got our baby pin down here, which we can use to attach our lights. All right, so here we are attaching a light to the grid system. We're going to attach it right over the YouTube and podcast area over here. The reason why I like that so nicely is because we not only record the audio, but we record video of the podcast, so that way we can post those podcasts up onto YouTube. Because some people just like to watch podcasts. All right, so here we are. Let's get this clamp that I was just talking about attached to our grid up here. I'm going to show you that this can support a good amount of weight, because I'm going to take an Aperture Nova 300C light that weighs, 20 something pounds, and attach it up here. And of course we're going to take our safety cable I was showing you before, and we're going to put it around the pipe. Now this is why you use steel pipes and not PVC or aluminum. Yes, the other options are cheaper. They're also lighter weight, and so they'll be able to come. You'll be able to get them up onto your ceiling easier. But at the end of the day, these pipe clamps you have to crank down so tight so that they are safe for everyone that's working in the studio. That you're going to want these steel pipes because they're not going to flex under that weight. Now I like to attach the safety cable around the yoke and around the actual pipe of our grid system. But here's our Nova on here. I'm going to aim it down at our podcast people who are going to be coming in tomorrow to film. Now the reason that I'm going with all aperture lights, yes, all aperture lights, and I'm a huge light panel and airy light fan, but I'm going with the aperture lights because I can use the Sidus app link on all of the lights, which means I can set up my iPad down here in my studio, just right from the futon over here, and then I can control all of my lights, the intensity, the color temperature, everything. That is going to be incredibly useful in terms of the lights mounted for talent on my grid system. Now, like I was saying before, these quasar science lights back here that are illuminating the green screen background and that can illuminate the white screen background that's going to be on the other wall, that's going to be via a manual switch and a manual dimmer. And that's actually how I like my background lights. These, though, are going to be incredibly awesome to run off of the grid system. That way I'm not having to get up here and adjusting all of the settings. Now, of course, in a professional film studio, if you've never been to one, we can attach a lot more than just lights to our lighting grid. In fact, we can grid mount microphones, we can grid mount flags, we can grid mount diffusion, and just all kinds of stuff. Now, in this case, we're going to be using a simple boom arm from a C-stand. And then we're going to be taking an MC light. Remember, I want to be able to run everything off of the Aperture Sidus Link app. This is an impact wall plate. It's just solid steel, which is why that MC light is magnetically attached to that. I just happen to have one of these lying around, and I was like, boy, that's really cool. So this is kind of like a cool MC light hack. You can actually put up to 3 MC lights on this guy, which would mean that this could be an incredibly bright light. What we're going to be doing with this light, though, is having it be our hair light over here in the film studio. And what we're going to be doing is using this boom arm to boom a light out to be our hair light in our podcast studio area. Okay, now we've got our baby pin coming off of here. We're going to tighten that knob over there. And then what we want to do is attach our safety cable. There's a hole on the GTX that you can attach that to and then go up around your grid. Get that nice and snug on there. We're going to take our aperture light on the wall plate. We're going to put it out on the boom arm. What we want to do is try and position this light so that it aims back towards our talent and is a nice hair light for them. We could put 2 of these up on either side. That would look great too. You can see that that aperture light really sticks on there nicely. And I'll show you how this works once we get it all set up, but the concept is that we can use these little MC lights as our hair lights in various parts of the studio, and then we will also use some other aperture kind of spotlights as well for some other hair light options. So here's what it looks like with just our hair light. Now this is from my iPhone aiming towards me, so it's not going to look good as if it was from my actual video camera. But there you can see the hair light. Let me show you what it looks like with our Nova light on. And now here we are with our Nova key light on, and then we've got our MC hair light back here. So we've got a really nice look going on here. We can fine tune it when our talent comes tomorrow, but this should look really nice for our podcast tomorrow. So there's our Nova light up there on our grid. You can see that we haven't finished putting in our soundproofing panels up there, but we also have a curtain back here. I'm going to show that in another video if you want to do that. I've got a great way to do that that's very budget friendly and very simple to install. All right, guys, so there you have it. There's the full grid up in place. We've got all 6 bars placed. We've got our chains. Each one of those chains can support 2,000 pounds, so we can support, what is that? If it multiplies, that's about 8,000 pounds on that sucker. With LED technology, as light as it is, we'll never have that amount of weight on there, not even close. But you can see that up here, we've got our 2 Quasar Science tube rigs, and that is going to be for back here. I'll show you how I'm actually wiring all that up. I'm actually not using a Bluetooth wireless app. I'm going to do it all manually, the way that actually I like to have it done. And I'm going to show you all of those kind of switches and all that cool stuff that I'm going to be mounting to the wall so that you can turn all this stuff on and then dim it. So there you have it. That is how to build a grid system.